Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Aaron here. Welcome back. It is January 24th, 2019. We're going to look more in depth at silver, some of the signals that are setting up, continuing our discussion from last week, looking at silver in depth. And I just wanted to say quickly thank you to those who made it out to the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference last weekend. It was great to meet you all. There were some people there. Some of our premium subscribers were there. It was awesome to see you. And some people who follow on YouTube and some completely new individuals who I met as well. So that was really great. Thanks once again for showing up, and thank you to the organizers of the conference for the invitation to speak there. I have a defined opinion on what is going to happen to these markets, to the resource markets, over the next 2 to 10 years. And that opinion, I think, is quite different from what you will hear in some of the other channels. But I have data to back that up, and that's what I showed at the conference. I'll post a link to that. I don't think it's up yet, but it will be available, that video to watch, I think sometime within the next week. So I'll post that as soon as it's available. So it was a great show. I had a wonderful time meeting a lot of the other people in this industry. There's one thing that I didn't like. And it wasn't actually with this show in particular. It's more a comment on the state of the industry. You could call it the precious metals industry or the resource industry, resource investing industry. And it's really this. It's that there are a whole lot of stories that are being sold to people. And I feel like there's a real lack of data to back up a lot of those stories. And I think that some people are truly being taken advantage of in this industry. There is a sense that there are outlets that are just providing free information, for your benefit. And I want to really challenge you to be extremely careful about picking your sources and who you are listening to for information, for education on this sector. The sources that claim to be putting out free information, I would say this. I would say that they have another motive. That if you're not paying up front, as you know, I do have a pay service, and we are expanding that going forward. So that's my business model. I put out the premium research, and there's a cost for that. And I just state the cost up front so you know what you're paying. But I think there's a risk here in the quote-unquote free sources of information in this industry. Because people think, and this is what I observed a little bit at the conference, I've been observing this at other conferences that I've attended over the last several years. There's a sense that the free information that is coming out is truly free. And I think investors are not putting the pieces together and realizing that nothing is truly free in this industry. There's no free lunch, as they say. So think about it. If you're following a channel and they're giving you all this information that you think is free, or you're following someone who's speaking on these topics and all of that is free, I would just challenge you to ask yourself the question, how are you really paying for that information? If you're not paying up front, if you're not paying a stated fee to receive a premium level of research or analysis, how are you paying otherwise? It's just a question. Think about it. Think about some of those free sources out there and the things that they've been saying, the stories that you've been told over and over and over again for how long? Months, years, decades now? I observed some of this at the conference, and it's the one thing that really turns me off about this industry in general, is the selling of stories to people, stories that don't change decade after decade, despite evidence that the actual markets are changing. So let's dive in. I'll jump off my soapbox for a minute here. Suffice it to say, there are things that I like about this industry a lot. As you know, I believe in the fundamentals behind the precious metals over the long run, and there are things that I don't like about how this industry operates. And I am simply trying to do my part to correct some of the things that I do not like. We look at silver. Now, we were talking about the weakness that we were expecting last week to come into silver. And I just wanted to bring up, so as I mentioned, I do have a paid service. And this is a snippet. This is an actual screenshot from, you can see this, page 3. You're welcome to pause and read everything that we had to say about silver. This went out just 4 days ago. And I want to bring this to your attention here. Okay, on the call for silver that went out last Monday, this Monday, we talked about this pattern that was setting up a descending triangle. We saw the breakdown on Sunday night, and we said that silver was targeting $15.12 based on an observation of the pattern that is visible. Okay, so a lower target, not calling for silver to skyrocket or go to the moon. We're trying to look at this as realistically as possible. Silver targets $15.12. This was the low on Tuesday morning in the overnight session, $15.12. Now, I'm not always this accurate. This is just one pattern that happened to work out rather well, but these principles can be applied to these markets over and over and over again. So all I'm saying is if you are growing dissatisfied with hearing the same things over and over from the same sources, and it seems like, wait a minute, maybe I'm paying not up front, but I'm paying on the backside because I'm not receiving accurate data. Well, that's what I'm here to try to work toward correcting. I try. Let's look at this comparison. This is one of those things that I believe if you're investing in precious metals, you should be following this metric, this alignment here. You should be following this basically every week. And what am I talking about? It is the relationship between silver on the bottom. We're using SLV as a proxy, but it moves 1-to-1 with silver. I'm not saying to own SLV. I'm just using it for charting purposes. And the silver mining complex on the top. This relationship is a key relationship to monitor. It can give us a lot of clues about how this sector is going to move over the short run, over the intermediate run, over the long run. And this is something like I feel is not discussed anywhere else. So I'm going to discuss it here. Now we're looking just over a 6-day time period here. And it's important to notice the turning points, the major lows and the major highs between the relationship of the companies that dig the metal out of the ground and the actual product itself. This can give us a lot of clues. So look at how some of these signals line up here. So let's talk about these lows here that formed 1 week ago. And we can notice how both markets made lower lows, right? Lower lows, silver miners and silver. So nothing crazy here. This is basically as we should expect. And then sort of a modest period of stability here coming into silver and a modest period of stability here coming into the SIL silver miners. So everything pretty much matches up here on the 1 week view, right? Can everyone see that? Just as a side note, the reason why this chart here looks choppy, see this sort of bits, it looks sort of like it's been through a shredder or something like that. The reason for that is because this fund doesn't trade. It doesn't trade every second of every day, whereas the SLV pretty much trades throughout the whole day. So you'll have gaps in the price action here. That's why it looks choppy. Now, where it gets interesting is when you start to back this out. So we were just looking at this period here, the last week or so. And where it gets interesting is when we start to look out. So now we're looking at 1 month. Okay, 1 month of time, not 1 week. And notice some of the divergence, some of the discrepancy that is setting up here. For example, notice how the silver mining sector just made a new low 3 days ago. Okay, here below the December bottom, whereas the price of silver did not. So, these things were fairly accurately correlated most of the time, except for this data point here. So it's just saying, What are we observing here? What are some of the silver investors pricing in that silver itself apparently is not aware of? And who else is talking about this? Now, I follow this relationship pretty much every day, and I comment on it in the premium service when there's something noteworthy. That tends to be about 1 or 2 times a month. And I bring it up here as a way of showing you examples like this of what we are following and what I think you should follow if you want to be a well-rounded precious metals investor. If you want to have the sum of the knowledge of what the market is actually trying to tell you, and not just follow some of these quote-unquote free sources who are in fact selling you a story. You're paying for a story. You just don't know it, but you're paying because you're receiving faulty information, if you ask me. So we see this divergence here. Silver mining complex is expecting something. What is it? Let's back this out one more time. And we were just looking at this the last month. Now we were looking at the 6-month time frame. So we're going all the way back to last July. And let's look at this relationship again. So this is what I do every single week. I look at all these relationships and I try to find, for example, when we look at a flat horizontal resistance level here, okay, notice how these two charts match up, which they should. There should be this relationship between the companies that mine for silver and the actual price of silver. These things should move in generally the same direction. So what does it mean here when we see the silver miners making a false breakout above a 6-month resistance zone, yet the price of silver clearly still above that breakout zone? What does this mean? Let's zoom it out one more level and look at the 3-year view. So this is, once again, this is what I do to be, to try to consider myself someone who attempts to look at this market across various time frames and across various metrics. This is what I try to do on a regular basis, to really take out the bias, take out the stories of silver skyrocketing tomorrow that have been told to you and sold to you over and over and over again for how many years? And what do we see here? A series of downtrends broken on the silver miners and something of a very nice channel that is still acting as resistance here over the last year in the miners. And look at this is what we were just looking at the last 6 months. Excuse me. And now look at the divergence here below this horizontal black color, horizontal support. Notice how when the silver miners broke down, they did not get anywhere near re-challenging that level, whereas look at what silver did. It re-challenged that level quite precisely. We've been talking about this in the 1560 to 1610 region. So we've had a retest. The silver miners didn't get close to retesting that, and they're still in a downtrend. Guys, tons of exciting stuff coming up I want to tell you about. Make sure to hit subscribe on this channel so you'll get updated. Trust me, I don't want to be bearish, but I have made a decision. I will stick with the available data. I will try to differentiate myself from many in this industry who only have one story to sell you, whether or not that story is accurate or not. I have chosen to go in a different route. I will become bullish when signals show me to be bullish. Make sure you hit subscribe. There are 2 services that are available that we offer here. One is available now. This is Precious Metals Intelligence. This includes our latest analysis on gold, silver, the GDX, the mining sector, the individual companies that we are investing here, as well as member-only videos just like this. More on that in a moment. Global Market Intelligence is coming soon. This is coming very soon. I know I've been talking about this a lot recently, but I'm really excited about this. I decided I would rather wait to make sure everything is exactly how I want it to be rather than publish it early. So it's coming soon. There's a sign up to receive a free notification when this is available. And this is going to include the exact trades that we are making not only in gold and silver, which you will get here, but in copper, platinum, palladium, oil, stocks, bonds, and various currency cross pairs. So all of this is going to be coming within the next couple of weeks. Precious Metals Intelligence, this weekend coming up, is our special monthly update. It's a 1-hour video. We're going to look at not only gold and silver, not just silver. We're going to add gold. We haven't looked at gold here on YouTube in several weeks. So video update on gold coming up. Also, the US dollar, gold in foreign currencies, very important. The action that we're seeing, especially gold in euros, gold in Canadian dollars, and gold in British pounds. We will look at all that coming up in video format, just like this, much more in depth, coming this weekend. Thank you so much to those on Patreon for your continued support for these free videos. It means so much to me personally. And keep watching these markets. I encourage you to follow signals like this, the silver to SIL ratio. Who are those people who are just selling you stories, really selling you stories week in and week out? I'm trying to provide as unbiased information as possible. Of course, everyone in the world has a bias. As a human being, you have a bias. You have a bias toward breathing oxygen and drinking water, right? So we all have things that are inherent within us. But within a business model, I'm trying to align this business with providing as unbiased information as possible on what is happening in these markets, as opposed to selling the metals themselves or selling the mining companies, which is what happens a lot at these conferences like I just went to. People are being sold mining companies. People are being pushed into investing into mining companies, so they're being sold stories. There are a ton of incredible opportunities setting up, I think, especially across the commodity spectrum. As soon as that video from the talk in Vancouver is available, I'm going to post it. That'll be free, of course. But I will post it as soon as that's available, and you'll see the setup that is forming in commodities. I couldn't be more excited about this over the next decade. There's going to be opportunities across all of these commodities. I think we just have to be careful. We have to pick and choose the right ones at the right time. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your week, a nice weekend, and I'll see you this time next week.